Greetings, everybody. It's Jim. I think everybody that's ever been into wargaming and has ever gone to at least one convention is familiar or have seen De Bellis Antiquitatis. It's a miniature war game that is played normally in 15 millimeter. What you're seeing here is 25 millimeter. It's actually a quarter of the size in a very compact spot, and it covers any medieval and beyond battle. So otherwise, you can go to the swords and sandals of Rome, all the way up to the knights in shining armor. It covers all types of units from the Soloi, if I said that correctly, which is the guys with the slings, lances, pikemen, the whole gamut of medieval warfare. It's beautiful. But there's only and by the way, it's a great way to get somebody into miniature or historical wargaming and miniature wargaming for that matter. But the thing is, there's two things about it that really I can't do it. I tried to get into it, and I wanted to buy all these armies because being a completionist, I kind of would want that. I want to play any kind, right? First off, that can get expensive even if you did own a game store at the time. And two, and this is the real thing, I hate painting. I hate it. I'm not terrible at it, but I don't want to spend the time. It's just such an investment. The only ships I ever want to paint anymore are my Silent Death ships, because that's what I've decided is my miniature game. Maybe Blood Bowl too, but I don't even want to do that. That's why I give my armies to my brothers. Hopefully they'll paint them someday, because they're terrific and they love it. If they ever get them done. But anyway, I was always wondering, is there a Hex and Counter version of this that can be played? Because I know there's block war games out there. Columbia Games has Ancient Kings based off their Wizard Kings model. I know GMT has the very popular Command and Colors, I believe it is. It's something like that, but it's based on the same idea. But is there a Hex and Counter war game that would do the job and be very affordable? And I found it. It's basically what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Let's just get right into it. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about King Arthur from SPI. Now, I know what you might be thinking at first. First off, there's two things about what I'm saying about King Arthur, right? It's like, wait a minute, Jim, first off, King Arthur is fiction. And second of all, it's only covering the medieval times with knights in shining armor. You're talking about De Bellis Antiquitatis, where it's going all the way back into almost the Stone Age here. How is that going to happen? Well, the thing is that I'm talking about is I'm taken back by this system that can be used for all this, okay? So necessarily these battles that I'm talking about here necessarily may not reflect all of it, but when you see the game play, that's what got me thinking. And it absolutely can. Now, the thing about King Arthur, and it's hard to get, it's like $60, $70, $80 just to find the thing, because it's King Arthur. It is fiction. It's kind of like trying to find Lord of the Rings from SPI, right? It's one of those original ones. Anything that had to do with something that would be a little bit more rare, actually. You think it'd be more common, but at the same time, it was actually more rare for whatever reason. Anyway, the best way to find this, by the way, is to get the Great Medieval Battles box set. Just get them all, because there's 4 battles as part of a quad that SPI used to do. Is like they always made quads of 4 similar games. They just had special rules for each one. They give you a main rule book, which is a few pages of the basic rules that will cover all the games, and then they would have exclusive rules for each game. Specifically, what rules are they good for? And King Arthur definitely does that, of course, being fiction. And that focuses more on leaders, but we'll get into that. But definitely, this is the way to go economically, because you can get all these games separately. Maybe it comes with Robert Bannockburn, Tamburlaine the Great, and the Black Prince, as well as King Arthur. And you're going to have to spend like $20 to $30 for each, and King Arthur is going to cost you $70 to $80. So you might as well just get the whole shebang. Now, what drew me into getting one of these 4 games, I started with Tamburlaine the Great, is the bottom of these counter sheets. As you see, double-sided counters. Oh man, I was just loving the idea of how that was going to play out. And it plays out exactly like I thought. The counters were not going to move like very fluently. They would have facing, and they would have to turn in such a way, just like in DBA, just like a medieval unit should move. They can do an about face maybe and such, but nonetheless, you can feel the stiffness of the unit. Now, if they wanted to, they could easily just shrink this down to another scale where a counter would be on one hex and such, and it would work. I'm sure there's other games I've played that would absolutely do that. However, with these units, it definitely has that feel is what they're going for. King Arthur is a game of routing. See, the thing is, there's no damage on the counters. You don't flip them over. to have a step reduction or anything like that, but they do get a route number assigned to them if they kind of take damage in that way. So when a unit gets hit by the enemy, they have to roll on a morale chart where their morale for their unit may be anywhere from A to E with certain modifiers, and all of a sudden if they get hit, they usually at first only get hit with a route number of 1 or 2. Now if they have a route number of 4 or more, they are eliminated at that point. But the thing is, things get worse as they get a route number. First off, if they don't have a leader unit on it, it's going to be they're not going to be able to, they're going to stay routed until a leader unit comes to the rescue and stays on them for a turn, and then they get it all removed. If they could be at a 3 or even a 4 route number, but if they have a leader on it that's not being disobeyed, then all of a sudden it all goes away and they're a fresh unit all of a sudden. However, if they do have a route number on them and they retreat and they get hit again, it's cascading. It gets worse and worse because their route number gets subtracted from the roll. So they get hit even easier and more so, okay, to lead to their elimination. So what this results in is generally the force is just spreading out everywhere, right? Because you get routed, they go away. There's only so many leaders, and they're like gold. And we'll get into how leaders can actually do battle in King Arthur in a little bit. But generally, everybody's going to be all over the place after a while as the turns go on. There's only 10 turns, but man, does it become a spectacle. Like in all SPI quads, there's a set of standard rules for all the games in the quad, and then there's a set of exclusive rules that's a little smaller set usually for each specific game, making it a little bit easier to digest. And with King Arthur, they talk about man-to-man combat and issuing challenges to the opposing leader to do combat. And in a game where routing is so important, only being healed by a leader, this is a big deal, okay? And it gets tougher for King Arthur's side, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But when you issue a challenge and it's accepted, what happens? Basically, it's just like the routing idea where there's this cascading problems just kind of escalate and exponentially get worse as you get hit. So here's what happens. Basically, you get 4 counters, your opponent gets 4 counters for helm, right, left, and the horse/legs, okay? Basically, you're going to be jousting first, and you're going to find out what you're going to say, what zone you're going to attack, and you're going to say what zone you're going to defend. You cannot attack and defend the same zone. So let's say I'm attacking his helmet. I'm going right for the jugular, right? And he's going to defend his right side, okay? As we can see by the combat matrix above, that would mean a 5, okay? Then the next thing you do is you roll 1 die and add it. Let's say 3. So now we've got 8. All right. Then what we do is we go to the man-to-man combat matrix modifier below. The first thing is the prowess rating of the attacker and the defender are figured in. So basically, let's say I have 2 for my prowess for my guy. That makes it a 10. But let's say that he has only a prowess of 1, so that gets subtracted. Now we're back down to a 9. Okay, so now we're at 9, we go through the other ones. If the attacker or the defender is mounted, that gets a plus or 1. This one's going to be a wash because it's the first turn, so we're still at a 9. The attacker has an unbroken lance. Okay, we haven't broken our lance yet, it's the first turn. I'm at a 10 again. Okay, now if the defender is stunned, that's going to be a plus 1. It's first round, doesn't matter. If the attacker or defender is wounded, this one gets a little different. The attacker only loses 1, but the defender is wounded. It's going to be a plus 3 to the attacker. But so that makes our final number a 10. And then we go to the man-to-man combat effects chart on the side, and it says that the defender is going to be stunned. He gets a stunned marker, and the next turn goes on if he doesn't surrender. Okay, you may find yourself surrendering depending on what your attack is, because you may not be wounded, but again, this is about cascading effects. So now he's stunned, which means the next round you're going to get a plus 1 to your roll. Now, mind you, when it comes to this defense matrix, let's look back up above there. We could say that there's some 0s and there's some 7s. It's all going to be a little bit of cat and mouse, where am I going to go? And it's going to be, I know that you know that I know that you picked horse last time, so I'm not going to take your horse this time. I'm going after I'm attacking your left side, that kind of thing. And it's only going to be really, when you get those big numbers, we're going to get a chance to actually kill the guy. Because to kill the guy, you need a 14 or more, as you can see on the below in the combat effects chart. Everything else, basically, you get stunned, you get unhorsed. So that's why it says horse/legs, because now you're unmounted and you're fighting, and they can attack your legs instead of the horse. But you could become wounded, which is really a problem. At this point, you might want to consider surrendering. But the thing is, it's just one thing after another. These counters don't go away from turn to turn, but they do all go away after the combat. So once you're in combat, it gets all erased. So this starts from scratch. It doesn't leave over, except if you're wounded. That sticks to you like luggage, and that you flip the counter over, your leader counter over, and that does affect the gameplay later on. Now, it even gets tougher for the King Arthur player, because his side, you're going up against Mordred and his forces. Not exactly the most chivalrous people in the world, right? But everybody on King Arthur's side has a chivalry rating. It basically goes up from anywhere from 0 to 5. Some of them are better than others at this chivalry thing. However, chivalry is not really an advantageous thing in this game. It's just something that you actually have to deal with. There's no positive thing about it, which is funny. But the thing is, when you're doing those challenges, basically, if your opponent breaks a lance and you have a rating of like 2 or more in chivalry, you have to offer them a new lance. If they get unhorsed, you let them get back up on their horse. So you're constantly, it's really tough for your leaders to actually, for your lesser leaders actually to make it. Now, mind you, if their chivalry is only a 0-1, you don't have to worry about that. Also, with that chivalry, you can't attack the legs or the horse of the opponent. You never can. So that's like, it makes it easier for the adversary to kind of choose what you're going to attack. It makes it really tough. Another thing about the chivalry is the idea that as being chivalrous, you have to accept, and this is true for all of them, actually, regardless of your chivalry rating, if you get challenged by the opponent's leader, you must accept. However, if the King Arthur leader challenges the Mordred's leaders, they don't have to accept. They can go into hiding, and they kind of get a counter that says hidden on them, and then they basically, no big deal, except for when their units get hit. If they get hit, when they're rolling on the morale table, it's at -1. So it could have some serious impact, but maybe it'd be better not to get hit at all, because in this game, you can also get captured. You can give up and just, you go, if you don't want to die, it's usually better, right? So you just be captured by that enemy's unit, and if that enemy's unit gets disbanded or whatever, then they go free. Okay, so a lot of things to have to do with leaders and routing, and it gets really tough at times, because there's been times where it can get long, those man-on-man battles, but how they get long is if you have less both players have a low prowess rating, and they both get unhorsed and stunned, and they break their lance, and it happens. They can both happen. Matter of fact, you could be on the attack, and if you roll bad enough, you lose your lance and stuff like that. Like a 2 to a 6 is actually bad for the attacker. But the thing is, if both of them do, they're sitting there forever waiting to get a shot in. You're going to have to wait till you get a 7. Then you're going to have to wait till you roll a 6 during that time. It really gets long. It almost made me want to make a special rule that if you get 3 stuns, it equals a wound. Okay, then all of a sudden it makes it a little easier. Because let me tell you, those battles can get a little long. Now, the game moves very smoothly, basically because there's not an attack value or a defensive value on every counter. Instead, they use it based on your armor. You're either wearing plate, mail, or leather, okay? So basically, when you're getting hit, whether it's a melee combat, basically you checking out what kind of armor you're wearing and what kind of armor they're wearing. You're rolling 2 dice on the matrix, and if it gets in that range, you hit the guy, and then they check on the morale effects table. Same thing with fire combat. You check your weapon there, whether it's a sling bow or a poison bow, and you check their armor, and then you roll, and same thing. You just go on the morale effects table if they get hit. The morale effects table, as we can see here, it goes to 5 different levels, A through E, and different modifiers can happen. Most importantly, the current route number of the unit you're attacking. if there is one, and then you just roll. And as you can see on an A morale, you know, unless you're rolling a 2 or less, they're not getting hit. It's almost like a saving throw in Warhammer 40K, while D or an E unit's already about to run. But you add the route level, or the current route level of the unit you're attacking if they've already been hit, and you may make them run a little bit faster. Now, as we can see on the counter down below in the Saxons, you know, they have the 3 letters on the bottom, or 3 letters and numbers on the bottom. The first letter is, of course, whether you're wearing plate, mail, or leather. The second number is the movement rating, and which is really easy in this. There is terrain, but it's not so bad that, you know, most things are just 1 or maybe add 1, and that's it. They keep it pretty simple. And the last one is, of course, the morale rating. So now the thing is, I also like to add that the Saxons actually, if we're looking at that counter right there, get to form something called a shield wall. Now, when you flip this counter over, it's not a step reduction; it's just a different stance, basically. And there's a big advantage to being in a shield wall. First, as you can see, their morale goes right up to an A, where they were normally at like C. And they're gonna stay their ground pretty well. The only problem is, once they're in shield wall mode, they can't really move at all, even if they have a movement of 1. Okay, so when they get routed, they gotta stay still. So that means when you get routed in this game, if you can't retreat like many other war games, you take damage. So in this game, again, it's not step damage, it's route damage, so you just get more damage. And so the Saxons, anytime they start getting hit, they're going to have to change mode, but they're already going to have some consequences, and their route number is going to increase automatically once they get hit because they can't move. Now, going back to Dibellus Antiquitas, I really think I would love to make units just for that. I think you'd have to make pikemen, you'd have to make unarmored units, you'd have to modify the matrices to reflect that. Plate against leather is already almost an automatic hit, so you'd probably have to do the same thing with unarmored, or at least reflect that with their morale, perhaps. I'm not sure. But, I mean, that would be a fun experiment. Another experiment that I would like to do is actually I'm almost tempted to just take all 4 games, put them straight across, and just say, go. That would actually be good. Well, actually, it'd be 2 armies against 2 armies, actually, because you only got 4, right? So, even though I do have extras, you know, I mean, when I was getting the original games, you know, I couldn't get King Arthur, so I bought the box set just to get King Arthur. So I have King Arthur and technically 6 sets right now of the other games. So it could really be big. But yeah, that would probably be big enough. I mean, 2 sets against 2 complete sets. That would be a big battle. It would be fun. I don't know what exclusive rules I would use or not use, or just use none of them at all and just go for a straight battle. It'd probably be enough because, you know, you're talking about scales, you don't want more detail. I've had to learn that. It's always tempting to do more rules for a big battle, but just, keep it simple, and that'd be good enough. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next video.